Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Indiequest, your celebration of the indie and obscure. We got the whole crew today. I'm back. Your two favorite hosts are once again here. Thankfully, they filled in for me when I was gone last episode. And yeah, let's throw it over to you, Josh. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm super excited to be here. Hopefully my internet wants to keep up with me this time. I think that it's just easy going for me today. But yeah, it's been pretty good. How's your last week or two been, Seth? How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm hoping to talk about some indie world stuff. That's what we want to talk about today, right, Josh?
Yeah, that's what my idea was. Indie World was like what 2 weeks ago, almost now, like a couple days after the episode aired, or the day after or something. But if it's indie related, it's worth talking about on Indiequest. So it was kind of randomly dropped one day, and Nintendo does this from time to time. It's just like a whole selection of like indie eShop games that are coming in the next year, right away, day one. Any of these games in here stand out to you guys specifically? I just figured we could just go over some highlights. We don't have to go step by step on this one.
There were a couple that looked good. One that seemed like a pretty big Steve game that I'm interested in checking out.
Can I jump in before you say it, Steve? Because I put in my notes, this looks like a Steve game, and I want to guess it before you do it.
Which one do you think it is?
I hope this is it. Soundfall?
It just seems like it'd be my kind of thing. It's a music, a music rhythm game. So it's like and I say this. So Soundfall was actually basically shadow dropped at the time of the showcase. We're recording this almost 2 weeks after the showcase aired, but it's like a looter shooter. I think kind of twin stick shootery, but it's all music rhythm based. So the idea is that. I believe, based on what I saw in the footage and some conversations I've heard elsewhere, you can just sort of like run around and shoot at any point. But if your attacks or your defense happen on the beat of the music, then you're able to get like critical hits, or it does more damage. It's more effective. You're incentivized to try to time your actions, both offensive and defensive, to the beat of the music you're listening to. And it's got a bunch of tracks itself in the game. And then what else is cool is that if you play, I think it's only the PC version, which would make sense. You can import your own music, and it will like auto detect the BPM and the beats and stuff, and you can line up your own music to it. So I can get in there and I can looter shoot with my Blink 182. It's going to be a good time.
I was wondering that too, because when I was watching it in Indie World, I could see the list of tracks, and they said there was like 150, and I was like, this seems so much like the old Rock Band, when you used to be able to like pay $1 and you could download all kinds of different songs, right? And I was like, I bet this would allow you to do that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, a lot of fun. And I think it's out now on everything. If I'm recalling, I know for sure it at least launched on Switch, but I'm assuming that when it dropped on Switch, it dropped everywhere. And so it's co-op. Maybe we can hook up a game sometime, or at the very least, I'll check it out and see if it's worth more of us digging into. But yeah, it seemed neat. I thought it was looking pretty cool. Josh, did you have any interest in that one, or any stick out at all?
Yeah, I was looking at it and it looked pretty cool. Every time I see a game where you can put your own music in, the game I think about is Audio Surf.
Yeah,
Audio. I haven't played that in forever, but yeah. Anyway, that style of doing the dungeon crawling with like rhythm-based things, I'm kind of bad at it. I tried the Cadence of Hyrule demo, and I was just like terrible. So I don't know if I would be good at this game or not. But it does look pretty fun.
Yeah, and based on what I can tell, it looks like hopefully it would be a little more flexible. Crypt of the Necrodancer, Cadence of Hyrule, they're very rigid. You have to move on the beat, and they're like very overwhelming and very difficult. This one seems like maybe it would be a little more free form, but the beat just enhances things. I'm not too sure, but either way, it looked pretty awesome. It was a nice, pleasant surprise. I'd never heard of it before. I don't know if it had ever gotten a trailer. previously, but it's Soundfall. Looks good.
Yeah, kind of honestly, with music elements, reminded me a little bit of Gungeon. You're running around shooting stuff, so top down, like it looks honestly like I would enjoy it, even though I'm not a big fan of like a lot of. I played a lot of Guitar Hero, but the rhythm type games generally aren't my jam. But I mean, if it adds an extra element, it might be interesting to look into. So
I could
a game. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I couldn't tell to wrap the discussion on Soundfall. Is it a roguelike or is it level based? Do you know?
I don't know. All I know is like the gameplay style itself when they're just running around shooting stuff. I know that it seems like they're trying to time it with the rhythm of the song, but it seemed very Gungeon. It would make sense that it would be a roguelike or roguelite, but I mean, I don't know. It looked the graphical style is really cool on it too. But yeah, as soon as I saw that thing playing, I was like, oh, Steve game.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, can't wait to do that tomorrow. It's gonna be great. So. A game that is definitely super in my realm, and it only took until the very end to get to it, and I think you would probably enjoy it too, Steve, was Another Crab's Treasure.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought that looked sweet.
Yep.
So I'm very excited to get into that one.
Yeah. So this is for folks that haven't seen this. This honestly might be my number one pick, even over Soundfall. It is a crab-based, as in like crab like you eat that live in the ocean and on the beaches, a crab-based Souls-like. Like it is a momentum of physics and animation-based, meticulous action combat game, presumably with bonfires and stuff. But you play as a little adorable crab, and you can hop between and take different like objects that you find throughout the world as like your new homes, which are basically like your armor set, so you can do crab-based fashion souls. It's just ridiculous. It's from the same dudes that did Aggro Crab, which I didn't play, but I know a lot of people have said looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks super. That game looks so cool. I mean, just like the combat and like the graphics for being a cartoony game, it just looked excellent. Like it looks so cool, so fluid.
Yeah, it looks fluid and it has a sense of humor about it, which is always appreciated for me. So definitely on my radar, even though I'm not like the Souls guy here, I still like that style. That's what interested me the most on that one.
What were you into from that indie world, Josh?
This one is called Gunbrella, and it is they say it's a noir punk action adventure game, and it looks just awesome graphics, really fun gameplay. Banging music as far as I can tell so far. I was like, oh, are they going to drop it today? And then it said 2023. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I can wait as long as it's quality. But yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, I put that on my list too. Like, oh my gosh, that's like just the fast-paced, high-action type gameplay. And just using the umbrella like in a variety of ways. Obviously, it is a gun, but he's using the umbrella to block and things like that. Yeah. Like, it's pretty cool. And to float down slowly, it looks sweet.
Yeah, it's a Devolver digital published game, so it has, all their games have different art styles and stuff, but Devolver as a publisher, you definitely, like, you can tell they've got a certain style to what they pick. Even before I saw it, I was like, this looks like it'd be a Devolver game. It looks pretty cool. Is there anything else that any of you guys, I got one more that jumped out at me.
I thought personally that one that looked like a Josh game to me was Silt. Just because it reminded me of like Underwater Inmost almost. Like, yeah, it was pretty cool. Like just that art style, I guess. It probably doesn't play anything like Inmost, but just the way it looks was pretty neat.
It reminded me of the water sections of Inside. Like when you're swimming in Inside, it kind of gave me that feel. I do like the art style for sure, especially since it's all hand drawn, which is always an interesting look and take on a game.
Yep.
Yeah, my notes for that just say Limbo meets Aquaria. So I always appreciate an underwater game. It gives you a nice element of exploration. I played a game not long ago called like The Aquatic Adventures of the Last Human, and it kind of reminds me of that too.
Nice.
Anything else from you, Josh, that looked neat or that jumped out?
One that I'm kind of like waiting to see what people say about it before I jump in, but it did look interesting, and I've seen some gameplay of it before. Was We Are OFK, which is that like biopic adventure game for that band. I just kind of want to know what people's feelings are on it before I jump into it. It's kind of one of those like, it looks like it could be good. It didn't really show a lot of gameplay specific things, and it's like you can text your best friends and send memes to each other. I'm like, what is this game? I don't really know, but I like the art style. The story seemed pretty interesting, so I kind of want to see what other people say, and if other people are digging it, maybe I'll jump in and check it out too. That's the other one that kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing trailers for that one for a while, and it's funny that I've seen probably 3-4 different trailers for it across different showcases and stuff, I feel like, and at this point I still have no idea what it's going to play like. Is it going to just be essentially like a visual novel, or is there going to be other actual gameplay to it? I'm not sure.
And also Ooblets is finally coming out officially, which is nice.
That was it's one of those, when I saw that I was like, Ooblets isn't already out? But yeah. The last one for me was Electhead. Honestly, it looks like it would be an NES homebrew. It very much has the feel of like Battle Kid, if anybody's ever played Battle Kid. A screen-based, 8-bit inspired puzzle platformer, and the hook seems to be that you play as this like little light, and any platform or any object that you're touching, you essentially like complete the circuit for, and it lights up, and so that thing can now move or eject items or whatever it might be. It can take some action only when you're touching it and interacting with it, and so objects have all sorts of weird shapes, and presumably it's going to be a lot about order of operations, what you do things in. But I like those games that just look like I could plug them into my NES, and it seemed very cool and had really catchy music in the trailer too.
My favorite thing about that game, or at least about the trailer for it, was his choice, because sounds like it was created completely by one guy who was a student in college in Japan when he was actually creating the game, and then he did it for a project, and he probably only did a level or two, and then he decided to complete it afterwards. But the coolest thing about that was the choice of color, because he didn't use hardly any color. It's not like he was using color to his advantage. He was using color as like a gameplay mechanic, so that you understand, like, oh, if it's yellow, then you're actually using your electricity on it. If it's gray, then you're not. There's really only like 4 colors, and they're very specifically, it seems like, we haven't played it yet, right? But they're very specifically used so that the player actually understands what's going on at that time. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, looks cool. I will definitely check that one out at some point. I don't know if it's like a day one for me, but I always like to see that type of game. All in all, I thought, a pretty good indie world. I think the sentiment from people coming out of it was generally a little bit disappointed, but that's always hard with these things, where if you're not getting specifically the announcement of a sequel to something that you already know, it's hard to like really be too enthusiastic, or to like, you don't know what you want until you get it, right? Like, no one would have ever wanted another Crab's Treasure, but here we are all excited for it. So I think it was, all in all, it was pretty good. Showcased a nice diversity of games. There's a little something for everyone, I think.
Totally agreed.
For all of you that have already seen this showcase and are already probably playing some of these games, there's your very timely breakdown of the Indie World Showcase. But Drac, my buddy, what are we doing today? Are we bringing games to the quest log? Are we each bringing a pick like we always do?
Well, we kind of are. So today we're going to be doing a variation on the typical episode. So we're going to be calling this an IQ Second Opinion. And from that title, it kind of suggests what we'll be doing. So basically, I'm the newest co-host in town, right? So I look back at the quest log, and we kind of discussed this outside of here, obviously, myself and Steve and Josh. But I look at a lot of these games on the quest log, and it's like, man, I really want to play that game, and they spoke so highly of it. But now I'm kind of de-incentivized to play it, right? Because we want to continuously bring new content to the show. So this is going to be a second opinion, where we each go back and have an opportunity to play a game that someone else brought to the quest log, and then kind of give it our own score. But the main reason we're doing this is to just be able to play these awesome games that we brought to the quest log that we haven't experienced before, and be able to have a nice banter. Because honestly, one of my favorite episodes so far, and I believe my two lovely co-hosts will agree, was the To the Moon episode where we just went off the cuff and started talking. Like that was just so much fun, right? So lots of banter back and forth, and I have a feeling that that's how this one's going to go as well. So what do you guys think?
Yeah,
I love it.
Sounds awesome to me. I'm excited because, one, this is an opportunity, a nice greatest hits for us to go back and revisit stuff that we've already done. But, and Josh, I don't know about you. This might be true for you too, Drachma, but less time has passed for you. As I go back and I look at the quest log, sometimes I look at a pick that I brought a year ago or more, and I'm like, hindsight's 2020. Now that this isn't fresh, I probably would have put that in the main quest, or I probably would have put that in the side quest. You don't really know truly, I think, your opinion on a game until time has crystallized it. So not only is this an opportunity for us to just get a little nostalgic, talk about stuff that we've already talked about and enjoyed, but a little bit too, we're not going to change the quest log, but there's a little bit of an opportunity to sort of relitigate our opinion on things and at least just kind of be like, you know what? Even though it's still going to sit on the side quest, I think if I brought it today, I would have changed it to a main quest and go from there. So almost like one of those episodes we've done where we revisited previous quest log games, but this time with fresh eyes from someone new.
Yeah, and actually you say that, and I'm already regretting a pick that I made 2 weeks ago. So, like, not completely regretting it, but it's like, it was right on the cusp, like, so anyway, but we're going to go down this road, and I think that having a second opinion and me speaking about a game, or Steve speaking about a game, or Josh speaking about a game, we all have different experiences in gaming and life, so we might have different experience with a game than somebody else did. And especially, a lot of us playing a game has so much to do with what's going on in our lives at the time.
Yes, this is your constant reminder that while reviews and opinions on games that you hear on podcasts or whatever are helpful, informative, interesting, they're just a snapshot of one person's opinion and their opinion at that moment in time. It's all in flux. It's all fluid. So it's not gospel, and you'll find, I think, that to be very true as we go through.
Yes, sir. All right. So just so we can get the ball rolling and kind of have an understanding, this is the first time we've ever done this type of episode. So if it is going to be what it is, and we'll refine it as we go when we do more of these. But I am going to be the lead-off hitter here. So just kind of set some base ground rules here on I guess how we're going to do this, and hopefully it works out in the end. But Josh, I brought a game that you played.
Awesome.
So just so the audience knows, this is, as we bring these games, we decided to keep them a secret from each other, and it's just going to be fun for you guys just as it's fun for us to kind of communicate back and forth, because we don't know what we brought, and it could be, Steve might have brought a game I played, or Josh. We don't know. So I am bringing Katana Zero to Indiequest.
That's a very, in my mind, a very Drachma game. It has your look and feel. You're a Devolver man in my mind. I see you, and you kind of just give off Devolver energy. So I'm excited.
Oh, I'm pretty pumped that you brought that one, because definitely is up your alley. This game is, I would say, one of my favorite. Like, it's almost like a classic indie game for me at this point. I love this game, so really excited to see if you feel the same way.
So hopefully I don't give it a negative review, but now. All right, so we're just going to start with a brief overview. Josh brought this back in episode 1 of Indiequest, so hopefully there's some newer listeners. This came back in like October 2020 or something like that, so it's been a year and a half since that. So to get a full overview and full everything on the game, definitely go back. My suggestion is to go back, listen to Josh talk about it. We're just going to give a bite-sized thing and then talk about our thoughts and then have banter and discussion back and forth. So basically, Katana Zero is a side-scrolling action game. It's kind of the pixel art style. Very reminds me of like 80s, 90s neon, lots of neon, bright neon colors. You basically play as a samurai who runs around in a bathrobe, and you're basically a serial killer, contract killer, right? You're an assassin. Mm-hmm. So somebody tells you, go kill this person, and you go do it. And honestly, for half the game, you don't really completely understand why you're going and killing all these people. It's your job. You work for Well, you talk to a therapist about your feelings, and then you go and you kill people, right? But yeah, it's a very steampunky that type of style and look. One hit deaths, so everything you do to anybody else kills them in one hit. As long as there are some characters who have shields and stuff like that, so you have to like get behind them in a way or get on top of them to kill them. But anything that ever hits you kills you in one hit. The cool, I guess, main mechanic that differentiates this game from a lot of other games is the rewind mechanic, which is you don't rewind yourself. The game rewinds itself because of story implications and stuff. But every time you die, you get to go back and restart the stage, basically. So, Katana Zero. I think, Josh, butt in if you want. Is there anything else that's like main thing that I missed that I should have said when talking about Katana Zero?
No, your breakdown's pretty solid. I do think that like it is worth saying that the storyline is very batshit crazy, like in a good way, and it's kind of fun to see how they take the gameplay mechanics and like weave that into a story and narrative. I won't go any more in detail with that. I think pretty much what I said on the first episode was something along those lines, like kind of like lead you into it. But the story is really good too, and the music's fantastic. Like my breakdown of the game was like everything's pretty stellar with this. So I think your outline is pretty spot on. So as a package, how do you feel this game is for you?
So my initial thoughts, and I would say this game takes about 5 hours to get through. There are actually, I only discovered 2 separate endings. I'm pretty sure that's all there is. Maybe there's another ending that I didn't get. But there's what I consider a bad ending and a good ending. And honestly, there's a decent chunk of time between those two. So if you play this game and get this game, I'm referring to Katana Zero. I want to repeat the title. We struggle to do that sometimes. Katana Zero. If you play it, I highly suggest playing it all the way through. Make sure you get as much out of it as possible. But the first 2.5 hours or so, I'll be completely honest, Josh, I thought I was going to have to come here. I still thought it was a good game, and I totally understood why you initially put it on the main quest. But I personally thought it could have gone potentially either way at first.
Right.
So it almost feels to me, and you can agree or disagree, and I know you played some, Steve, of this game, but it almost felt to me like a puzzle game, like a high-paced, action-y puzzle game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because the way you run through a level in this game, I just feel like the way that I think about it in my head for all video games pretty much, but think about a heart monitor, right? And if someone's flatlining, horrible thing, right? But imagine the flatline, and then the heartbeats go up and down. Imagine the flatline as being how the developer wanted you to play the game. And any variation from that, up or down, is what you're doing on your own and allow yourself to do. I think that Katana Zero almost makes you stay on that flat line. Like, it really doesn't want you to diverge from that very much. Even, I mean, obviously in story, there are story, I guess, in terms of story, you can make a lot of different decisions. I'm not necessarily talking about the story, but gameplay, I feel like the cool thing after you complete a stage, you get to watch your replay. Mm-hmm. I feel like if I played this, and then Josh played this, and Steve played this, the correct way through a lot of the stages, we'd all look about the same. Mm. Like, maybe there's some fumbling here or there, but Makes sense. The most part, it's very precise. Like, it's a pretty hard game, honestly. Yeah. It's pretty hard. Like, it's so... And the enemies are placed in such a way where it's like, oh, I know I need to dodge this one, and then I need to jump behind that one, then I need to do this, and then I need to do that, and then I'll make it to the end. And we're all going to end up getting into that same mode of like, I need to do this, I need to do that, because that's, you just memorize how the level plays out, right? So in terms of the final way, now the way we get there, one of us might have gone through the level first try and like, oh, okay, cool, and keep on. And then another person might have taken them 10 tries to figure it out, right? But at the end, I think most stages really require you to figure out a specific way to get there. Yeah. At least that's how I initially saw it. So what are your thoughts in terms of that?
The really easy comparison, maybe it's kind of reductive for this game, is that it is like a 2D side-scrolling Hotline Miami. Like, that is true in tone, that is true in style, and I think that's true in that same gameplay loop you're talking about. Hotline Miami might be a little more flexible, but it is very much a, like, there are certain situations that you basically just have to handle a certain way. You know, if there's like a door and then an enemy right next to the door and then an enemy with a gun on the other side of the hall, you're going to have to like burst through that door, hit this guy, and then use their weapon to take down the guy at the end of the hall. And so there is, I think, some flexibility because you can like cut bullets and stuff to deflect them away. But by and large, it is deceptively a puzzle game more than an action game, where it's less figuring out like what crazy combos can I do, and it is more like, all right, using my tools, how can I possibly get through this at all? Super Meat Boy in that way.
Right. And the question is, like, in a game like this, do you think the levels were designed well and interesting enough to keep your attention? Like, did you like how they were designed, or did you find them frustrating? Because if it's designed in a way where it is a puzzle game, like you said, are the puzzles fun to go through? That's the question I would ask you.
Yes, they are. I don't want to say, like, I hope I didn't sound negative when I was saying what I did. I think it's designed well. It's just, I guess the reason that detracted from my experience at the beginning was because I hadn't really looked into Katana Zero a lot. I had listened to your review on it a year and a half ago and remembered nothing of it and didn't listen to it again until I finished the game. So when you look at this game, look at screenshots, don't watch any reviews, you almost think, oh, Mega Man X, but as a samurai. That is how it looks, and that's not what you're getting. You know what I mean? That's not how it plays at all. So I guess that's the main thing, like Mega Man X or any Metroidvania gated exploration. You play as Samus, you play as X, you start the game, you have nothing, right? And you have to gain all that stuff as you go through. That's kind of what I thought it would be. As you play as, I don't even want to spoil anything, but as you play as the main character in this game, you have everything at your disposal right out of the gate. You have the slow down time mechanic. You can roll. You have the sword that you're going to have later. There's even a joke halfway through the game where you pick up what looks like, I don't know, it's some handgun. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. But you pick up a handgun. You're allowed to pick up a lot of things throughout the game and throw them at enemies like knives and pots and things. Well, there's a handgun sitting there, and when you pick it up, it plays like a special tune. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to get to like shoot guys for once. That is awesome. And then you bust through a door and you press the B button to shoot it, and it just throws it at him and it just smokes him in the head. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? It made me chuckle because it was like, my character probably doesn't really understand or use guns. He doesn't, or I guess he probably does or has used guns, but just the way you play, the developer was like, look, I gave you a gun. And then they were like, I'm just kidding. You're just going to throw it just like everything else. But yeah, I think it was designed very well. The puzzles, the different situations, the days that you go through were great. It just, at the beginning, the gameplay was not what I anticipated it would be based on the things I had originally seen. But after I got used to it, I was like, okay, this is what this game is. So that kind of leads me into my final thoughts on it. So that was kind of my thoughts through the first half or so of the game. Final thoughts through the rest of the game. I personally believe if anyone out there has ever played Katana Zero and bounced off of it or was like, yeah, this game's pretty fun, but I'm going to play something else.
Oh, no.
I think I remember hearing in the initial, yeah, I know, Steve.
You're talking to me, man.
You originally played it, and I feel like you said for an hour or two, and you're like, yeah, it's good. And that's exactly how I felt initially. You have to play this game through. This game is a game. And I know I've said in the past, like, if a game can't grab you in the first hour, then is it really a good game? But the thing is, Katana Zero is a good game, and it's a relatively short game anyway. But what the first 2.5 hours brings is maybe a 7.5 type out of 10 experience to me. The last 2 hours or 3 bring that up to a 9 overall. I mean, the last half of the game is so good. And, I mean, I'm just going to say it, obviously, now that I've kind of said that, absolutely deserves a main quest purely because of that. I mean, it's a 5-hour game anyway. You got to play the last half. It is so good. just the story, it like Josh said, it is kind of batshit crazy, and it's convoluted. But you have to read through between the lines a little bit. But man, the way it finishes and kind of sets up what I believe they're going to develop something in the future. It seems, right, because there's a to be continued kind of mysterious thing. So that's awesome. But like there was so much going on at the end, and it's just you learn so much. And just I think my favorite thing about this game is the presentation. And I know that's kind of vague. But God, it's so good. Like, the music is so good, and the best part about the music is every time you walk into a stage, you look down at your Walkman and you press play. Like, just stuff like that in like a 32-bit game. Like, oh my, it just puts you in the mood. You don't know quite what the music's going to be, and then as soon as it starts playing, every time it's like, oh, this music fits perfectly with what I'm about to go do. And it's awesome. I love it. I'm so happy I went back and played it. And I'm so happy because I actually did get the bad ending, and you get credits on that ending. Yeah, but that's about halfway through. And I was like, well, I guess I could be done. I know I have more game, I think. And I seriously did sit back and think about it for like half an hour, went and did something else. And I was like, no, I'm going back in. All right. And I am so happy I did. It was so worth it. It's so good. Man. So very good recommendation way back at the first episode, Josh. It's awesome.
I'm feeling the guilt now for not having finished it. I felt the guilt back then, but I'm definitely feeling it now. I mean, for everything that I have the context for, I would agree with what you said. I didn't drop it because the game wasn't good. It's just, life finds a way, distracts you with a new shiny toy. And you say, I haven't played in a couple days. I'll get back to it. I haven't played in a week. I'll get back to it. It's been a month. I should get back to it. It's been a year. Well, I certainly plan to get back to it at some point. And then suddenly you find yourself on a recap episode of your podcast, and the guilt comes flowing right back in. So, for the parts I have context for, I agree. Josh, what I'm curious about is, looking back, you sort of alluded to your feelings here, but looking back almost 2 years later now, do you generally feel the same way you did before about this game?
Yeah, I do. But at first I was like, was I just hyping this up too much? Was Steve just sitting there like, well, who is this joker I'm doing this podcast with on episode 1? But no, like, I do think that ultimately, like you were saying, it's very much one of those, like, stick with it, get through the first hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever, and the story. And then I'll just say this, there are some set pieces that happen, like, that are very just like kung fu movie, just like super intense, like awesome set pieces that are like you're going to be doing, your palms are going to be sweating because they're just so intense and fun to play through, and then you're just going to be like, yeah, that's badass, and it's like very memorable. I'm just trying not to spoil it, but I think that the scenes in there and like the storyline, like if I have to play a sequel to this, I'll probably just play the game again if they ever do a sequel, because it's going to be kind of like, yeah, I need to know this batshit story from the beginning, because like it's just so convoluted and out there. But I appreciate that. I love storylines like that. Like, my favorite franchises are freaking Kingdom Hearts and Metal Gear Solid, so I like crazy batshit stories anyway, as it is. So yeah, I do think that even now it's still a main quest title, and from the last thing I've heard about the developer, he is making DLC for this game, so maybe we'll get some more content relatively soon. I'm not sure what the updates are on for that one, but I definitely play more.
Maybe it's just a continuation, like rather than them doing a sequel, maybe they're just going to do DLC as their continuation, which that would be fine too. I guess I don't really care how I get the content as long as I can get it. But yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting game in that a lot of games you don't get to play as the super character, but you kind of do. Like, you are really strong in this, even though you do die a lot, but you are really strong, and it's satisfying after you kind of get with what the game wants from you. It's so good. So
I'm really stoked that this is what you brought to the second opinion, because like you said Katana Zero, and I know your taste in games pretty well, and I'm like, okay, he's going to like it. I know he's going to like it, but how much is he going to like it? Is it going to be a main quest? I really hope so, and I'm glad that it stuck with you just like that. That's awesome.
Dude, I'm telling you, like, the presentation just the way that it sets like that, they did such a good. I just can't even put it in words how well they did at making this game like this is what it is, and they tell you without telling you what the point they're trying to get across. Like just with the graphical style, just very very subtle things. Like we were talking To the Moon when we talked about it. Lots of subtle things in that too. Kind of reminded me, completely different game, but kind of reminded me of To the Moon in some of the ways that they do some subtle things with characters, with how they talk, with being able to interrupt people. Like it's so good. It's very worth for. I think anybody should play this game for 5 hours. Like it's so good. So.
Heck yeah. Well,
Awesome.
there you go. That's everyone's reminder that Katana Zero continues to be good and continues to be
That's right.
worth your time. Good pick. I'm glad you went so deep back into the quest log. I think that's interesting. We probably have a lot of new listeners to the podcast that never even heard that first episode or that first couple of episodes, and so to them this might be a new experience, and I hope that this has done something to encourage them to go check it out. But I know that Drachma's not the only one that brought a game. So, Josh, I'm wondering what did you revisit?
I went back to episode 11 of the show. I'm not sure what the date was on this, but this is a nice little side quest game that Steve brought to the table. It's called Old Man's Journey.
All right.
Yeah.
Good pick.
I was looking for a little cozy bite-sized game this time. I was like, that sounds like something I can just kind of chill and play in an hour or two and just get through. And I think this game was made for a touchscreen because I played it on PlayStation, and you get like a cursor to like, okay, so basically what it is, there's this painterly style world. You have this old man who gets a letter, and that's all you know. That's the only context you know, and he's going somewhere to do the mission of this letter. And all he does is he walks automatically over these hills and like different like pathways, and basically it's just a puzzle game where you're trying to line up these pathways to get to like the background of areas and things like that to basically get him to the next screen. And that's basically the whole gameplay, is you're just dragging these hills and buildings up and down to line up pathways to get him to pathfind to the next area. So it's a really simple gameplay loop. I think this game really shines on its art style and music and kind of atmosphere. The story is really light. It's kind of like more context clues. He does like sit down and kind of have like thoughts where he's like thinking about the past, things that are going on. And I just really think this game is more of like a tone piece style of game more than like video gamey game, not much action going on or any like reflexes you're going to need to play this. It's kind of just like a cozy game you can pop on and just kind of like just enjoy being in it. But yeah, I do think it was a pretty solid game. It was a side quest game. That was my challenge to myself. I was like, I'm going to play a side quest game and see if it's a main quest game. I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to you, Steve. Do you have any memory of playing this game? Because it's not very long. Do you have any like passing memories or thoughts you want to throw out about it?
Yeah, I do remember still playing this game. I think I played this one on stream, actually, because I was just, at the time, I was looking for something like charming and sort of light. I think it was there was like some work related stress or something going on, and I was like, I don't have the headspace for the equivalent of a Katana Zero. I'm not looking to learn a bunch of systems. I'm not looking to test my reflexes. I just want something breezy. And I don't think the game ever really gets particularly difficult. Like it's hard to describe when we are saying that you're just sort of like pushing buildings up and down and hills up and down to make a path. But that's really all it is. Like if you imagine like a parallax scrolling like retro game, if you took each of those levels of parallax and then you could just like morph them to be larger or shorter, or taller or shorter, and then your character can walk across any layer, that's essentially what it is. And it never really pushes you. I don't think it's supposed to be like, it's a puzzle game, but it's not really supposed to test you too much, because there's not a lot of situations where you can really like make a mistake or go in the wrong direction. It's never hard to back out from what you did. It's split up into like these screens, and so you're never needing to move more than a handful of objects at once to get him from where he's going to the end destination or whatever else he might need to be doing. So at the time, this is how I felt, and this is kind of still how I feel, where it's just, it's good comfort food, right? It's sort of the equivalent of like on a cold night having a like nice warm thing of mac and cheese or something. It's not healthy. It's not like gonna blow your mind. It's not gonna be the prime rib that you remember for the rest of your life, but it goes down and it serves its purpose.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm sitting with it right now. I got into it. I kind of vaguely remembered you saying it was a puzzle game and that it was cozy and it wasn't that challenging. And I'm just like, I'm literally just just to be honest, like in life, I had a rough week at work, and I just wanted something like just to like kind of like chill to. And I was like, from the art style, I'll go ahead and I think it was like $7. I also throw $7 at it, check it out, and bring my thoughts here because we were going to do this episode. And I was like, you know what? That was a nice time. Like it's a little bit of a slower burn type of game. There's not much going on, but it's kind of like I can kind of space out and just kind of enjoy the nice. Like it's beautiful. Like it's hand painted. You can tell the music is just really like light and just sweet sounding, and it's just like a really nice bite-sized game. I think it took me like an hour and 30 minutes at the most to play through, and really I'm gonna have to agree with you that it definitely is a side quest game. It's just like it's like a perfect side quest game almost, because like it does everything it sets out to do, but it's nothing like earth shattering. Like, oh my god, this is like the best game I ever played. But like it's so recommendable though for if you need, like I needed something to just lift you up a little bit. It just puts you in a good mood. It's a really sweet, a heartfelt game. It's a very simple story, like I said, but I just had a really nice time with it, and I'm glad I played it. Like, I'm glad I went back to the quest log and played it. This whole idea for this episode is a good idea in general, because I don't know if I'd ever go back and play that. I mean, I might have intentions to, but this kind of like pushed me there to try out a side quest game just to see, is it really a side quest? And this time it was for me as well. So, yeah, that's how it worked out.
Heck yeah. Yeah. And thinking back on how I feel about it today, I would still definitely put it on the side quest as well. It's not, and this sounds maybe more harsh, but it's not an overly ambitious game. It's a beautiful game. It's very sweet, and it's just like, yeah, we just want to do this one pleasant thing, and we want to do it well, and it does that. So I still recommend it to folks. I still would, if you're ever in the mood for like just a little bit of work in your brain, but not too much, this one's good. Seth, I don't know, have you played this, or do you have any interest in this? Do you even recognize it at this point?
I have never played this, but I did just look it up quick as you guys were talking, and I will agree that it is beautiful. Like, it looks so cool. Like, I don't know. I've never played it, but it makes me want to play it. We were talking about presentation with Katana Zero. Like, these screenshots are just gorgeous. Like, the hand drawing and the hand painting, like, it just looks like seriously, someone just painted this on your screen. Like, it looks so cool. I can imagine it'd be very cozy to play.
Yeah, super cozy. And I know you play on your Mac, not your Mac, your PC a lot, like your laptop. Yeah. That's a good game if you just like want to take the mouse and play with your mouse, because it's like made for like touchscreen or like mouse. Yeah. So you want to sit back with your wireless mouse, whatever, and just play through like in an hour and a half. Like, I think that would be a perfect little chill thing for you to do someday. I think you would enjoy it just for that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I will definitely check it out.
Any other closing thoughts on Old Man's Journey?
I am glad I revisited it, or I visited it for the first time, and I want to do these episodes more often, because like Jackmo was saying at the beginning, is like he hasn't like played any of these. These are all games he never played. These are games that me and Steve brought to the table, but there are plenty of games here that Steve has. Like, you have a variety, like huge taste in games, like so many different types of games that you like. And some of them are out of my comfort zone, so there might be a couple that I'll just be like, yeah, I'll try this out. And I like same with you, Seth. Like, you have games like Into the Breach that maybe I would never try, but it's on the quest log. Maybe one day we'll do another one of these, and I'll try that out. And so this is like a cool format, I think. I just want to comment on that. But yeah, that's all I got to say on Old Man's Journey. There's not a lot to say about it. It's just a simple, cozy, cool little game.
Looks great.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, Steve, what's yours? I'm really curious about yours. What did you bring to the table today?
Yeah. So I went back. I also wanted to grab a game off of the side quest and bring it forward to see if I would feel the same. I don't know if that's maybe always the right approach to have, but in this case, I went back and I played one that you brought, Josh, a long time ago called A Normal Lost Phone.
Ooh.
I remember this episode, actually, so that's cool.
I don't remember what episode this was on. It was an earlier episode for sure.
Yeah.
I think 3. It sounds like episode 3 or 4, somewhere around there. So,
as a quick recap for folks that aren't familiar, this is in the very small, but I think very easy to identify genre of games where you are navigating a fake phone. So there's like games like this and Simulacra, and there's a couple others that are just like you're playing a digital fake phone with a bunch of fake apps and things on it, and you're just poking through, navigating, trying to uncover the story. It's like a puzzle adventure game. It's mostly about it's almost like an escape room. It's like you finding the puzzle and then solving the puzzle to find the next puzzle, that sort of thing. And I was always interested in this one because I like that genre. I think that that like style of game. I think that it is neat and it's fun to do sometimes. And so this game is very short, very easy to get through. I think it took me like an hour to get through, maybe an hour and a half. And yeah, this is an interesting thing for this episode because I'm going to actually go on record and say it did not really land with me. I think it's a fine game, but I ran into some like friction. And I don't know if it's like for the context of how I was trying to get through for this episode without it necessarily being my mood. But I felt like sometimes it was a little hard to find what the next puzzle was. And so you can have access to this person's email, like a really good example of the puzzle solving I'm talking about here. And the puzzles are quite cool. Is you will get the very first thing you need to do on the phone is you need to figure out how to connect to the Wi-Fi because none of the apps are working because you're not connected to the network. And so you're scrolling through the phone. You can scroll through a bunch of old text messages and you can find texts that you sent to some friends of yours or some family of yours and be like, hey, here's the Wi-Fi password if you ever need it. And you're like, oh, hey, now I have the Wi-Fi password. I can connect. I can get going. And so once you get the Wi-Fi open, now you can open some other apps, including some like dating apps and things like that and your email. And in poking through those things, you'll uncover the next story. What I think maybe is a me problem, but I kept not really knowing what the next problem I needed to solve was. I kept running into situations where I would just need to like scroll through every single email or every single text message to be like, what is the next thing that I need to do? And there were actually a couple of times, even though it's an hour long, where I had to pull up a guide just to like figure out what the next puzzle was. Not even what the next solution was, but just what the next puzzle was. So I will say that when it's going well, it's a very cool game. It does a lot of clever things, and it like covers a pretty good range of topics. It's about this person who's struggling with like identity and sexuality and all sorts of stuff. So it covers some relatively heavy material, and I think it does so relatively tastefully, even if it does it at kind of a surface level sometimes. But yeah, I just kept not knowing what to do next. Do you remember that ever happening to you, Josh, or is it just that I was too tired when I was playing this game?
No, you're good. I think that it happens like one time to me, and I think I kind of know where you're talking about. It's been a while, but there was like a code you have to figure out at some point, and I feel like it took me like a long time, like too long for this style of game to figure that out. But
yeah,
I think the reason I brought the game in general was I think that the way it told the story, and this was the first one of these style of games I ever played, so I think that it was so creative to me because I had never played this style of game before. So I think that's the reason I brought it. Like, it just really landed with me because I was like, this is such a cool and creative way to tell a story about somebody trying to like find their identity. You're kind of like looking through somebody's diary, kind of, quote unquote, which is their phone. So I just thought it was a cool concept. But yeah, the puzzle solving was kind of like meh. I don't think it was like the focus of why I would bring this game, because it was just kind of there. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I got like I can admit I got stuck one time, but yeah, it's just kind of like, yeah, it was all right from a puzzle solving standpoint. But like I said, I just like the storytelling mechanics of it.
I do have one question for you, Steve, or Josh too. Is the only way to play this game on a phone? I guess I don't remember.
There is now a Switch version, but I would recommend people that play it on mobile. I don't know. Did you play it on mobile originally, Josh?
Yes, I did. I played it on my phone, and I like it because it kind of like takes over your phone. Like you're basically playing using somebody else's phone the way that they implement it. So it kind of makes you feel like you're just toying with someone else's phone. I like that concept. So if you want to like do it on your Switch, I'm sure there's touchscreen and stuff supported on that. But I think it's recommended to play it on the phone as well.
I know that some folks, I think we had a couple beat tweets probably after Indiequest for this game, and some folks played the Switch version and they seemed pretty positive on it when they played it on Switch. So I think you're probably ultimately fine whichever way you go. But they do, like Josh said, they do a very clever thing where they take over your phone and they essentially replace the like the bottom button with like its own version of a home button. There's a back button in the bottom left corner. It was actually funny. It was so like convincing as like a fake phone. Like I knew I was on a fake phone, but when the first puzzle was that there was no Wi-Fi to connect to, and I got stuck for a while in that puzzle because you have to like look through it like a good amount of information to figure out what the Wi-Fi password is. I at some point thought like, oh wait, is this because my actual phone isn't connected to the Wi-Fi? And I swiped down on my phone and I connected to my home network because I wasn't connected. And I was like, maybe the game is reading my Wi-Fi to see if I'm actually connected. That's how like convincing of a ruse they had. I thought that there were more hooks than there actually were. So
let me go look under my router quick. That's why I always have to find my password.
It's so true. But yeah, when it works really well. I got like a little overwhelmed sometimes because when you first start the game and all you can do is open the text messages, like there's a lot of text messages. There's probably like 20 different text messages to different people. And so I was like, do I have to read through all these right now? That's a lot of information for me to parse through. Or am I only supposed to read through certain ones and then come back later? And it was like a little bit of information overload. And then when you get access to your email, it's the same thing where there's a bunch of different emails and a bunch of different threads. I did think that the conceit for the text was pretty clever because the idea was like, why would you have a text basically to every single friend you've ever met? And the idea is that the character lost their phone and so was texting everyone like, hey, I got a new phone and this is my new number, just so you know. So that's why there's a bunch of different threads for different people. And it does some other cute things where like you'll find draft emails that were never sent and you can like finish them and then send them off as part of puzzle solving and stuff like that. So it is very it's having a lot of fun with its concept. I'll say it's just it was in spurts for me. It was start and stop. It either was working well or I was having to flip over and look up a guide to figure out what to do. So, and I would say that the story overall has a pretty good payoff. I don't know, Josh, if you remember how it ends, but I think that they do it. They find a nice way to end it.
Yeah, I really liked the way it ended, and I do agree with the information overload parts of it. I mean, it's a mild spoiler, but there's a part where you go into a forum, and there is a lot more than even just the text message, and it's just like, okay, there's like a whole forum threads to read here. Okay, I guess this is a story. This is telling a story, so I might as well go read through them all to see like what they're trying to tell me here. And the story you kind of get enraptured with the story as you go through, and you kind of know the characters through the text messages and stuff. So it does have payoff when it comes to that, but I do agree with the information overload. Yeah, but generally, I think the story is what really sold me on this, and it was like it stuck with me enough to where I was like, yeah, I'll bring that to Indiequest and talk about it. I think it's interesting enough to talk about it if somebody wanted to try it out. And so it's just like kind of like I wouldn't be like, this is my favorite game of all time, but I have a good memory of it. Like I remember it being like, this is really cool. It's a kind of it's like you said, it is surface level a lot of times, but it is very much like, you know, it's LGBTQ content, and it's nice to see some more of that. The more, the merrier for me when it comes to that. So it's nice. But yeah, you sound a little negative on the game, just to be honest. Is it still a side quest for you? Like, would you like bring this to Indiequest ever, or are you glad it's on Indiequest, or where are you at with it?
I think if I had just played it myself, and I wasn't doing it for a revisit, I probably wouldn't have brought it to the show, just because I'm so 50-50 on the parts that like really didn't stick for me. But I do agree that for a lot of people, this would be a side quest, because it's really going to come down to how much you connect with the story and with the themes versus how much like how bothered you are by maybe occasionally needing to look up the solution to a puzzle. And I think I was there personally a little more for the puzzle side of things. And because that part wasn't being scratched, I ended up, and again, not negative. Like, I certainly wouldn't give this game a bad review. I would just say that it has like pacing and information issues that get in the way of an otherwise neat story. So yeah, I'm totally comfy with it as a side quest. I think that makes perfect sense. And again, this is a very low level of investment for folks. Like, it's like $3.50 on mobile. It's like an hour and a half to play through, maybe a little more if you like really read through every text message and read through every email and every forum post. Maybe a little less if you end up looking stuff up when you get stuck, but it's not long at all. There's probably only like 7-8 puzzles in the entire game, so it's very much just like a little playground for you to poke around in and learn about these characters.
Right, and I do think that your reading level would dictate how long it would take to beat it. Yeah. Like how fast can you read, really, on this one. From what I'm thinking for you, it's probably like a 6 out of 10 game, maybe. It's okay. It was pretty good, right?
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'd say 6 out of 10. It's like there's a certain type of game that, like, you know, sometimes you play a game and you're just like, oh no, that ain't it, Chief. I ain't about that game. But sometimes you play a game and you're like, I can see other people really liking this, and if you're not going to be as bothered by the parts that bothered me, I still could recommend it to you. And so It exists in that, like, if other people were looking for this type of game and they're like, oh, I want to try, I played Simulacra or whatever. Do you have any other games that are like that? I would still say, yeah, try Normal Lost Phone. See if you're into it. I wouldn't be like, yeah, if someone came to me and said, I think I'm going to check out a Normal Lost Phone, I wouldn't be like, whoa, hold up there, buddy. Why don't you play a good game? Why are you wasting your time on a bad one? So it's just like didn't land for me.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, so that's fine. I know that you have. I'm sorry. I feel like I keep cutting Seth off. Just 1 second. Yeah. It's like you with Celeste. I know that you like Celeste, but you're not like as high on Celeste as everybody else. Like, it's different games for different people. So, and I want to have that Celeste conversation with you someday. We will have that topic and discussion, because you said, I like Celeste. It's okay, but it just doesn't land with you as much, you know. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk to you about that game in the future. And go ahead and say what you're going to say, Seth. I feel like I keep cutting you off. Sorry.
No, but before you say that, I just want to cut in. No, I'm just kidding.
Seriously, I was like, okay. It's like, I'll just wait. No, I mean, honestly, the back and forth between you guys on this game specifically, I've never played it. I looked up some screenshots. It looks cool, like it looks like it literally looks like your phone, right? It just takes your phone and it makes it somebody else's phone, which is pretty sweet. But just I guess I had not anticipated when we had started brainstorming this idea. I didn't think that this would happen or that this was potential. But I suppose a side quest game or even a main quest game, and that's kind of what I wanted to come out of this type of episode, was like, everybody's got different opinions. Everybody's got different experiences. So just because it hit a certain way with Josh doesn't mean it's going to hit a certain way with me or Steve, or vice versa if we play a game, right? If you guys play one of my games, you're not going to break my heart if you don't like it as much as I did, right? I mean, that's kind of how it goes, you know, just different games for different people. So that's pretty cool. It was interesting to listen to.
Yeah. And so if you ever out there play a game that's on the main quest or the side quest and you're like, I didn't like this game, well, now we can point to this episode and be like, see, Everyone has a different thought on the. Even the hosts can't always agree.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Everyone's take is spicy.
That's true. And I was going to ask Seth, do you think you're going to play this game, or is it not one that interests you at all?
So, I guess cell phone games for me, I'm like everybody else. Like everybody plays a game on their phone from time to time when you're bored, right? But I guess I would never go after like even an hour-long experience. Like I probably play card games and stuff on my phone for way longer than an hour, but cut up into bite-sized pieces. I don't see myself ever getting into like a story-driven game on my phone. Not that I wouldn't, I won't ever do that, but I guess that's not something I gravitate towards. So, if I would have, let's say I was considering playing a normal Lost Phone for a second opinion episode, and I looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, it's best experience on your phone, I'll probably look at something else. That's probably where I would have landed with it. So
I will say, and Josh, let me know if you had a different experience with this, but even though it's a game that I'd recommend people play on mobile, it's also a game that I don't think you should break up into a lot of different chunks, because you're learning about different characters and you're only really learning about them by reading text conversations, email conversations, forum posts, the occasional picture in like the gallery on the phone. But if you were to like play it in like 10-minute chunks spread out over like a week, I think it'd be even harder to keep some of the information in your head and keep some of the relationships like intact. And so I for that reason would recommend people try to have the hour and a half set aside to play through it kind of in one shot, maybe in two, just so that you can maximize your chances of connecting with the characters and connecting with the story.
I totally agree. It's very much a short story that you should sit down and be ready to just get from the beginning to the end on, because it does have a nice payoff, like Steve was saying, and I agree with him. And getting there, it is a lot of reading and trying to connect the dots in your head based off of text messages and emails and like in forum posts, like I was saying. Like it's, if you don't have that connective tissue the next day when you like revisit it, like you play for 30 minutes and go back, that connective tissue won't be there as much in the story. It will definitely not land as well. So I do agree with that sentiment for sure.
Yeah, you'll be like, wait, was Alice the friend, or was that the mean person in class? I don't remember who Alice is, and you'll have to go do a bunch of backtracking.
Mm-hmm.
So an interesting revelation that I just had about phone games in general, and this is just going to be a very brief sidebar here. You guys said it's $3, $3.50. Is it weird? Is it the same way with you guys that if I'm about to spend $3 on my phone, I feel like it's way more money than getting on Steam and spending $3?
There's like a weird thing that happens in people's brains, and it happens to me, and I agree with you, where because we're so used to everything on phones being free, any amount of money feels weird on a phone. And you can like a little bit, if it's like up to 99 cents, it not rounding up to like $1, or it only rounding up to $1, it's a little easier to be like, you know what, 99 cents, that's nothing. Like if that change fell out of my pocket, I wouldn't even bend down and pick it up. But as soon as you start getting into a few more dollars, there is like a little psychological barrier to push through. And I don't like that I have that, because I think that most games on phones are undervalued because of that, because they have to bend to that market. But yeah, I see something for $3.49. You know, I get an email from Steam that says something on my wish list is $3.49. I'm like, diggity dang, that's so cheap. It's like no money, and then it's on my phone
on
and
sale.
I'm like, ooh,
right,
dang, that's
a pricey boy,
premium.
Yeah.
I will say the pro strat is get that Google opinion rewards. All right, have Google send you a survey every now and again. They'll give you 30 cents play credit, and then before you know it, you got $8, and then it's a free game because you get it for your free Google money.
You get 2 normal Lost Phones. Boom.
They do have a sequel. They have a sequel. There you go. Oh yeah. But yeah, I do agree with you. Yeah, I do agree with you. Like it's just a weird thing. It's like Game Pass. Like Game Pass, you get on Xbox. That's how I am with Xbox. It's a similar idea. Like if there's a game that's an indie game that's for sale on Xbox, I'm like, why isn't it on Game Pass? Like why? Like I bought Rogue Legacy for $20, and I was like, but it should be on Game Pass, right? It's an indie game on Xbox. It should be on Game Pass. So it's the same type of mental thing, I guess, since that's just how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't have that with Game Pass because I've never. I mean, I did have an Xbox console a long time ago, but I don't even know if Game Pass was super popular then. I think it was around, but like, so I don't have that. So when we've had conversations about different indie games, just the three of us just chatting, and you guys are like, "Oh, I think it's on Game Pass." I'm like, "Oh, yeah." I mean, I paid $12 for it on Steam, but whatever. You do what you got to do. So it make me feel bad about myself. Like, oh man, I really wish I had that thing, but whatever. So.
Nah, you're good. You own the game, so you're smart. You can always go back and play it again.
That's true.
So, do you guys have any other thoughts on Normal Lost Phone before we get to the old wrap up here?
No, none from me. Josh, anything from you? If not, I have a closing thought here on the concept overall.
Okay. Yeah, I do think that it was interesting to see you, like you said, not negative, but be on the other side of it. Because I was like pretty positive about it. And you're like, here are the things that bothered me about this. It didn't land with me. And I'm like, that is an interesting angle to this. Because I thought maybe somebody would bring a main quest game. It's like, nah, it's not really a main quest for me, but it's a side quest. But this is a side quest game. You're like, maybe I wouldn't even bring it at all if it was me. So I thought that was pretty fascinating, doing this. It's kind of an experiment episode for us, I guess. And I thought it was such a great idea that you brought here. So I think we'll do more of these if people like them.
Yeah, for sure. That was a very interesting rift, but I'm interested to hear what Steve thinks about the episode.
I mean, this show is sort of built around, it's a celebration of indie games, right? It's a show built around positivity. And so we have this sort of natural filter to not bring stuff to the show unless we're already positive on it. And this is like, again, I don't want to pretend like I hate this game or anything, but this is like the one way that I feel like some strong opinions can Trojan horse their way into Indiequest. But again, I think at the end of the day, it still is a recommendable game. I think it makes sense on the side quest. If anything, even though maybe my take was inadvertently a little bit spicy, people might end up being disappointed that we weren't at each other's throats trying to barter and swap around these games more. We kind of were like, whether we were hot on it or not, we're all just like, you know what? Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense exactly where it's at. So if you were here to see fists get thrown, people, I'm sorry that it didn't work out that way.
I thought it was going to happen. On my screen, at least, we're on the Discord video, and I'm separating Josh and Steve, and I thought I was going to have to all right, guys, chill out. It's just a normal phone, Steve. Stop it.
Yeah, I'm assuming in the cutting room floor, the edit of this podcast will get rid of all the expletives and the mean things we said back and forth. Me trying to dox Josh live on air because I was like, I'll get him.
You hear me crying in the background. You're just gonna slowly turn the volume down. Yeah.
Well, I like it. I like it though, Steve.
It was a fun.
It was good.
Fun game.
So the thing about this kind of episode is it's nice because when I listen to podcasts, this is something I do. I don't know if you guys do that. You kind of build, I know what a Seth game is, right? I know what games you like, just because I know what kind of games you play. I know what kind of games Steve likes, and and then as I'm listening to a podcast, I'm like, this person likes this type of games. So of course he's gonna like that game. Of course it's a side quest game for him. And so if I bring a game that is a side quest game for me, you're going to know that's Josh's side quest because that's his opinion on that. That's the type of game he likes. So sometimes it doesn't land as well with you guys. If you guys played, let's say I bring Nidhogg 2, which is a recent one I brought, and then someone plays it, I was like, this is trash. This isn't a fighting game. What are you doing? This doesn't work. Well, I'm not a fighting game guy. I don't play fighting games, but I like that game because it was more of a platformy fighter game, and it, resonated with me. So, yeah. I like this concept. I think that we should do it every so often, just when we're feeling it.
Yeah. Mixes it up, makes it interesting. It sort of forces a little bit of conflict without even realizing it because, I brought a bunch of games that I love, obviously, to the show. And I've also, often Josh or now you, Seth, you'll bring games. And if it's a game that I like, I've probably already played it. And so the list consists of three types of games. It's either stuff I've played and brought, stuff I've played and didn't bring but approve being here, and then stuff that is maybe a little outside of my comfort zone because I wasn't the one that brought it and I didn't think to or care to play it at the time. So I think it's a good way to force you out of your comfort zone and get some new experiences. So also, it's just a trash take to put Titan Souls on the side quest. I didn't want to bring it because we just talked about it last episode, but I played that too, and it's a main quest.
Well, I already explained at the beginning. Titan Souls probably deserved to be. I mean, it was right on the cusp, and for the music alone, I know I'm kind of regretting that a little bit.
And I leave you two alone for one episode, and this is what happens: the sanctity, the integrity of my main quest, side quest breakdown.
Nope. Don't drag me down into this. It's not my fault this time.
I just want to let the audience know that I was the one that said, Steve, you should play this game. And I know he had a little bit, but yeah. Steve, you should play this game all the way through. And it's because, like Josh was saying, we understand each other's tastes. And I was like, oh, I mean, it's definitely a good game, and I enjoyed it. But then I watched Steve stream it, and it's just like, he was just at home. It was like a fireplace game. Like, it was just so cozy. And even though it's not really a cozy game, it's hard, right? But I mean, it was just such a Steve game. And I think, honestly, now that we're already on this little tangent, it works so well for streaming.
Yeah,
because
it's a perfect stream game.
I kept getting frustrated walking back to the bosses over and over and over again. But you're just like, I'm going to do my little walk. It's going to take 10 seconds, and I'll interact with the audience. Mm-hmm. And I thought that worked so well. All I did was walk. It was like a loading screen that I had to do myself. It just frustrated me. But you were just like smiling through it, talking to people. All right, let's take another attempt. Died again. Smiling through it, talking to people. Like, it just worked so well. So, but anyway,
yeah.
I definitely would understand why you'd want that to be a main quest. But back to our second opinion episode. I think it went honestly about as well as I thought it could. I was honestly surprised that we ended up with a game that maybe somebody wouldn't have brought. I didn't fathom that would be a possibility. But I guess obviously anything's possible. So definitely interesting. I hope we can do some more in the future because, like, I played Bear's Restaurant a few episodes ago, and that's not a game that I typically play, right? Mm-hmm. That is kind of the point of these episodes, is to get us out of our comfort zones, playing games that our co-hosts enjoy, and then we might not necessarily gravitate towards. So I think that, or maybe I put something on the side quest, and like Steve, if he brought Titan Souls, would have been like, no, that is definitely a main quest game, and here's why. Like, I want that to happen in the future too, a side quest game to be like, why would you put that on the side quest? It is so much better than you gave it credit for. So, but yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. Rock solid, fun time. Happy to have done it.
All right, Josh, you wanna close us out here?
Sure. You can find the show on Twitter at IndieQuestPod. Just jump right into it. Why not? If you have an email for us, just send us an email. Topic of discussion, a question about indie games, or anything otherwise. Send us that fun little email at indiequestpod@gmail.com. Almost forgot the email address. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Frantic Society. But why would you want to do that when there are so many cool people to follow on Twitter like Steve? Where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and on Twitch as Blink That's OOM. M like, don't know about that phone game.
Oh, the circle of life. That was so good.
What about you, Seth? Where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Captain Drachma. And, of course, you can find myself and my two lovely co-hosts on the Polymedia Discord. I think we're changing a little bit, but best place on the internet.
Heck yeah. Go check out polymedianetwork.com. Check out all the shows. We won't give you a full breakdown this go around, but we got nothing but bangers over there. They're all this good or better. So that's the level of quality we're dealing with.
And as always, thank you for listening to IndieQuest. This show always brings a smile to my face, makes my day every time I sit down and record one with these guys. So hopefully that does the same for you. And you know what? Just take it easy. Have a great day. Play a cozy indie game, and we'll see you next time.
Peace. Bye, everyone.